Welcome back, my friends, to the Mortals, the place where we tear down the walls brick by brick, peeling back the layers of life's most harrowing, soul-shaking moments. Here, nothing is off limits. Life, death, the brutal in between, and those stories that linger in the shadows of the unknown. I'm Nathan Morris, your guide through tales of near death, the unexplainable, and the transformative power of loss. Before we dive into today's story, I've got a little caution for you. If you're new here or haven't hit that follow button yet, now's the time to do so. Because rumor has it, if you don't follow the Mortals, you're going to end up at a funeral, accidentally reading the wrong obituary aloud. You're going to be turning a tribute into a tale of someone else's entirely. Don't be that person. Save yourself the mortifying mix-up. Hit follow right now and join our community of curious souls. Today, we're stepping into a story that will grip your heart with horror and awe. It's about a young woman who survived a crime so brutal, so vicious, that medical science and sheer will alone can't explain her survival. Until an unexplainable force seemed to intervene at the edge of death. This is the gut-wrenching, unexplainable story of Alison Botha. This story depicts events of sexual assault and extreme violence, and may be troubling to some listeners. Listen with care. It's December 18th, 1994, in Port Elizabeth, a coastal city in South Africa, known for its windswept beaches and quiet suburban streets. And Alison Botha, a 27-year-old insurance broker, is enjoying a warm summer evening with her friends. Alison is a vibrant, independent woman with a bright smile and a zest for life. She's recently moved into her own apartment. It's a small but cozy space in the city, and works hard at her job while cherishing her close-knit circle of friends. She's the kind of person who lights up a room, always planning beach outings or movie nights. But tonight, an unseen darkness is closing in. Around 10 p.m., Alison drives a friend home after a casual get-together at a local pizza spot. The air is balmy, the streets bathed in the soft glow of sodium lamps, and the radio hums with a pop song as she navigates the familiar roads. She's dressed in a light summer top and jeans, her long hair tied back. Feeling content after dropping off her friend, she heads back to her apartment in the suburb of Walmer, a relatively safe area, or so she thinks. She parks her red Mazda outside her building, grabs her purse, and steps out into the humid night, the sound of crickets filling the stillness. As she locks her car, she doesn't notice the two men watching from the shadows near a parked vehicle. They've been stalking the area, looking for a target. And Alison, alone and unsuspecting, fits their predatory gaze. The street is quiet, most residents asleep, and the nearest streetlight flickers weakly. She takes a few steps toward her apartment door, keys in hand, when a sudden rustle behind her makes her pause. Her heart quickens, a primal instinct warning her. But before she can turn fully, the nightmare begins. In an instant, Alison's world shatters. One of the men, later identified as Franz Dutoit, approaches her with a chilling calm, asking for directions. His tone is polite, disarming, but his eyes are cold and predatory. Before she can respond, the second man, Thunes Kruger, emerges from the shadows, a knife glinting in his hand. Allison freezes, her breath catching, as Dutoit grabs her arm, his grip like iron. "Don't scream or you're dead," he hisses, his voice a venomous whisper. Panic surges through her. But the street is deserted. No one to hear, no one to help. Suspense coils tight. Every single second feels like an eternity as she realizes she is trapped. They force her into her own car, Dutoit taking the driver's seat while Kruger holds the knife to her throat from the back. They drive out of the city, heading toward the desolate outskirts, this remote area of scrub land and dunes far from prying eyes. Allison's mind races. Should she fight, jump out, scream? But the blade against her skin silences any resistance. The car's interior smells of sweat and fear. The radio now off, replaced by the men's low, menacing murmurs. They taunt her, laughing about what's to come. Their words a sickening prelude to violence. After a 30-minute drive, they stop in a secluded spot. The ocean's distant roar, the only sound beyond their heavy breathing. They drag her out, the gravel biting into her bare arms as she stumbles. The night is pitch black, the moon hidden by clouds, and the air carries a salty tang mixed with the stench of their malice. Allison pleads, her voice trembling, but their faces hard, devoid of mercy. Tell her begging is futile. The attack begins with a ferocity that defies comprehension. They assault her, a violation of body and soul, before the true horror unfolds. Dutoit and Kruger, fueled by sadistic rage, stab her over 30 times in the abdomen and chest, each blow a searing explosion of pain. They slit her throat 17 times, nearly severing her head, leaving her blood-soaked and broken on the cold ground. Convinced she's dead, they walk away, their laughter echoing into the night as they drive off in her car. Allison lies there, life draining with every heartbeat. The darkness is closing in. Will death claim her? Or is there a flicker of hope in this abyss of despair? Let's grasp the sheer brutality of Allison Botha's situation. She's lying on a desolate patch of ground near Nordhoek. After a savage attack, she's been stabbed over 30 times, her throat slit 17 times, her body violated in ways too horrific to fathom. Blood pools beneath her, soaking the earth, and her injuries are catastrophic. Her intestines are exposed, her windpipe severed, her major organs punctured. Medically, survival is impossible. She's lost liters of blood, and shock should have already stopped her heart. Most would die within minutes from such trauma. Yet Allison clings to life through a night of unimaginable agony, defying every odd. In the suffocating darkness, Allison's consciousness flickers. Pain is her world. Each shallow breath, a knife in her chest, each movement an inferno. She can't scream. Her throat is a ruined mess, and her body refuses to obey, paralyzed by trauma. The night is endless, the silence broken only by the distant crash of waves and her own ragged gasps. She feels death hovering, a cold shadow ready to claim her, and in her mind, she sees her family, her friends, a life slipping away. And she's ready to let go, to escape the torment, when the unexplainable intervenes. Suddenly, amidst the haze of dying, Allison feels this surge, a presence, not a voice, but a force, urging her to move, fight, live, as if something grips her soul and refuses to let it drift. She later describes it as a warmth, a strength not her own, cutting through the despair like a lifeline. Against all reason, her fingers twitch, clawing at the dirt. She drags herself inch by torturous inch toward a nearby road, her exposed wounds scraping against the gravel, leaving a trail of blood. It takes hours. Her vision is fading to black, but she reaches the roadside at dawn, collapsing as the first light paints the sky. A veterinary student, Tian Eilert, drives by around 6 a.m. on December 19th. He spots her, a broken figure on the roadside, and slams on his brakes, horrified. He later admits he felt an inexplicable pull to take that route, a detour he hadn't planned, as if guided. He calls for help, cradling her as paramedics race to the scene. Allison's pulse is a whisper, her body temperature plummeting. But she's alive. Doctors at the hospital are stunned. Her survival defies medical logic. How? How did she endure hours of bleeding out? What drove her to crawl when her body was shattered? Something intervened, something unexplainable, in the face of pure evil. Allison Botha's survival on December 19th, 1994 is a medical and human miracle. She's rushed to Port Elizabeth Provincial Hospital, where surgeons battle for 12 hours to save her. She's lost over half of her blood volume. Her intestines are severed, her throat nearly detached, yet somehow no major arteries are fully cut. A fluke that defies the ferocity of this attack. She remains in a coma for days, her family praying at her bedside, doctors warning she may never wake, or if she does, may never walk or speak. Against all predictions, she opens her eyes on day 5. Her first words, a hoarse whisper of gratitude. Her recovery is a grueling odyssey. Months of surgeries repair her ravaged body. Her abdomen is reconstructed, her throat rebuilt, leaving permanent scars like a map of her ordeal. Physically, she relearns to walk, each step a victory over pain. Mentally, the trauma is a relentless specter. Nightmares of knives, of laughter in the dark plague her. Yet Allison's spirit refuses to break. She later recounts feeling that same unexplainable presence during her darkest hospital nights, a warmth urging her to heal, to reclaim her life. Something wanted me to live, she tells interviewers. Something I can't name, but can't deny. Her attackers, Dutoit and Kruger, are arrested days later, caught driving her stolen car. They're convicted of rape, attempted murder, and kidnapping, sentenced to life without parole. Their lack of remorse chilling the courtroom. Allison testifies against them, her voice steady despite the trauma, driven by a need for justice. Tian Eilert, her rescuer, remains haunted by this detour. He admits no logical reason for taking that road, only a feeling he couldn't ignore. Allison becomes an advocate for survivors, writing a book and speaking globally. But the mystery of her survival lingers. How did she defy death? And what guided her and Tian in those critical moments? Let's dwell on the unexplainable in Allison Botha's story. How does a woman survive over 30 stab wounds, 17 throat slashes, and hours of bleeding out when medical science deems it impossible? Her injuries should have killed her within minutes. Shock, blood loss, organ failure. Yet Allison endured through the night, crawling to salvation. Then there's the intervention, that surge of strength, the presence urging her to move when her body was broken. And then Tian's inexplicable detour that placed him on her path. Was it sheer will, adrenaline, or something beyond? A spiritual force? A guardian angel? Or was it defiance of fate itself in the face of evil? Allison has said, "I felt something hold me up that night. I don't know if it was God, my own soul, or something else, but it saved me." Tian echoes this, unable to explain his detour beyond what he calls a gut pull. This story sears us at the Mortals because this is not just about surviving trauma. It's about the unseen force that seems to intervene when darkness consumes. Allison's survival transformed her, turning a victim into a beacon of resilience, carrying the weight of unimaginable pain and the mystery of why she was spared. This forces us to wonder, in our broken moments, is there a power, a presence, that refuses to let us go even when evil tries to claim us? Allison Botha's story leaves us raw with questions, and maybe that's its strength. Sometimes the unexplainable isn't a puzzle to solve, but a scar to honor. A reminder that life can endure even the darkest violence through forces we can't grasp. If you've ever experienced something unimaginable, a near-death horror, an intervention in trauma, a loss maybe that reshaped you, I want to hear from you. Join the Mortals community, a space for deeper conversations, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and a chance to connect with others who feel the weight of these stories just like you. Members get early access to episodes, bonus content, and direct line to share your own experiences. Check out the link in the description or visit nathanmorrismusic.com to join. That's where you also can find my music, which is streaming everywhere you stream your music. Your story might be the one we tell next. Quick shout out to the tool that makes this show possible, Descript. If you've ever wanted to start your own podcast, edit audio like a pro, or just make your voice heard, Descript is the tool that I use every single episode. With features like automatic transcription, easy audio editing, and even AI-powered voice cloning, Descript takes the headaches out of podcasting, so you can focus on the stories that matter and sound like a pro along the way, even if you don't necessarily know what you're doing. Try it for yourself for free at get.descript.com/Nathan Morris. Again, that is get.descript.com/Nathan Morris. Let's finish the story. Let's plunge into a story that will make your skin crawl. It's about a man who dove into one of the deepest and darkest underwater caves on Earth, only to be ensnared by an abyss that seemed alive with malice, until an unexplainable force dragged him back from the edge of oblivion. This is the eerie, terrifying story of David Shaw. Let's dive into the darkness. It's October 28th, 2004, in the desolate Kalahari Desert of South Africa, near a remote sinkhole known as Bushman's Hole, a name that whispers of ancient dread. David Shaw, a 50-year-old Australian airline pilot and experienced deep diver, stands at the edge of this watery chasm, preparing for a record-breaking dive. David is no stranger to danger. He's logged over 700 dives, many in treacherous underwater caves, driven by this quiet obsession with pushing human limits. He's a meticulous planner, a father of two, with a calm demeanor that masks an unyielding hunger for the unknown. But nothing could prepare him for the malevolent depths awaiting him. Bushman's Hole is a vertical underwater cave plunging over 900 feet into the earth, a black, gaping maw in the desert, surrounded by jagged rock and sparse, wind-battered scrub. Local legends murmur of spirits guarding its depths, of divers who never returned, their souls claimed by the abyss itself. David, though a man of logic, feels an uneasy prickle as he surveys the still, inky water. He's here to attempt a dive to 886 feet, deeper than any recreational diver has gone in a cave, using a rebreather system to recycle his air. His team, support divers, a medic, and his wife, Anne, watches as he checks his gear, tanks, lights, a backup knife, and a camera to document the descent. The air is heavy with tension, the desert sun casting long, skeletal shadows over the sinkhole. As David suits up, a cold wind howls across the hole, sounding like a low, mournful wail. His wife grips his hand, her eyes betraying fear. But he smiles, reassuring her with a nod. He's trained for this, calculated every risk. At 9 a.m., he steps into the water, the surface rippling like liquid obsidian. His team's radios crackle with final checks before he disappears into the void, and then silence follows. It feels oppressive, as if the hole is watching, waiting to swallow him. David Shaw begins his descent into Bushman's Hole, the water closing over him like a shroud. The first 100 feet are familiar, cold, dark, but manageable. The cave walls narrowing to a claustrophobic tunnel. His headlamp pierces the gloom, revealing jagged limestone edges that seem to leer like skeletal faces. The deeper he goes, the heavier the silence becomes, broken only by the hiss of his rebreather and the thud of his own heartbeat. At 300 feet, the temperature drops to a bone-chilling 46 degrees Fahrenheit, and the darkness is absolute, a suffocating black that feels alive, pressing against him. By 500 feet, the pressure is crushing, over 15 times that at the surface, squeezing his body, testing his resolve. He's in uncharted territory now, deeper than most divers dare venture. His mind stays sharp, monitoring his air mix, but an eerie unease creeps in. He later recalls feeling watched, as if unseen eyes tracked his every move from the shadows. At 700 feet, the cave narrows further, a jagged slit barely wider than his shoulders. His light flickers. Batteries shouldn't fail this soon. And for a moment, he's blind in the abyss, his breath quickening. The walls seem to pulse, or is it that his imagination? Suspense tightens like a noose. One wrong move, one equipment failure, and he's lost forever in this underwater crypt. At 800 feet, nearing his target, disaster looms. His rebreather's carbon dioxide scrubber begins to malfunction, a silent killer flooding his system with toxic gas. He feels it first as a headache, then dizziness, his limbs growing heavy, his mind distorting reality. The cave walls seem to wither, shadowy forms darting just beyond his light. Is he hallucinating? Or is something there? As he realizes he's running out of time, trapped in a tomb of water and stone, with no way up fast enough to survive. The abyss hungers, and he's its prey. Let's sink into the terror of David Shaw's situation. He's over 800 feet underwater in Bushman's Hole, one of the deepest cave dives ever attempted, with a failing rebreather pumping toxic CO2 into his lungs. At this depth, decompression sickness is a death sentence if he ascends too quickly. Gas bubbles would form in his blood, causing agony and paralysis. His oxygen is depleting. Survival beyond 30 minutes at this stage is improbable, and most divers would succumb to poisoning or panic. Yet David endures a harrowing ordeal that stretches beyond reason. In the suffocating dark, David's body begins to shut down. His vision tunnels, his hands tremble, unable to adjust his gear. He's disoriented, the cave spinning like a nightmare carousel. He later describes hearing whispers, distorted, guttural, echoing from the walls. Not his radio, not his own mind, but something otherworldly, urging him to let go. His light catches fleeting shapes, humanoid shadows that vanish when he focuses. Terror grips him. Is this death or something worse? A guardian of the abyss claiming him? He's seconds from unconsciousness. His body is limp when the unexplainable intervenes. Suddenly, a surge of clarity cuts through the fog, a sensation he later calls a jolt from nowhere, as if an unseen hand steadied him. His fingers, numb and useless moments ago, move with purpose, switching to a backup air mix on instinct he didn't know he had. A voice, not audible, but felt in his core, commands to him. Climb, now. He can't explain it, but it's undeniable, a force overriding his failing body. He begins a slow, agonizing ascent. Pain, guided by this presence. On the surface, his team, unaware of his crisis, grows anxious. His dive time exceeds the plan. Divers prepare to descend, but the depth and conditions make rescue nearly impossible. Against all odds, David keeps rising, driven by something beyond himself, as if the abyss reluctantly releases its grip. At 300 feet, after hours of ascent, he reaches a decompression stop, his body racked with pain but alive. Support divers meet him, stunned, to find him conscious. They assist his final rise, emerging at 6 p.m., over 9 hours after he submerged. His face is ashen, his eyes haunted, but he's breathing. How? How did he survive CO2 poisoning, narcosis, and the crushing pressure when science says he shouldn't have? What force guided his hands and will when death was certain? Something intervened, something eerie, unexplainable, from the heart of the abyss. David Shaw's emergence from Bushman's Hole on October 28th, 2004 is a triumph shrouded in dread. He is rushed to a decompression chamber nearby, then to a hospital in Johannesburg. Medically, he's a paradox. Severe decompression sickness causes joint pain and fatigue, and he's hypothermic, but no permanent organ damage or brain impairment despite prolonged CO2 exposure. He spends weeks recovering, battling nightmares of drowning in endless black, of shadowy figures reaching for him. Physically, he heals, but the mental toll is a scar that never fades. David recounts his ordeal with a tremor in his voice, describing the whispers, the shapes, and that unexplainable jolt that saved him. "I felt something down there," he tells a diving magazine. "Something not human, but not hostile. It wanted me out, like I didn't belong in its domain." His team, including his wife Anne, is shaken. They saw no sign of his struggle on surface monitors, yet felt an oppressive dread all day, as if the hole itself radiated malice. Divers who've explored Bushman's hole whisper of similar experiences, unseen presences, voices in the deep. David returns to diving, but never to that cave, haunted by the sense he was allowed to leave, a guest spared by a reluctant host. The local sand people indigenous to the Kalahari nod knowingly when told of his story. Their folklore speaks of Bushman's Hole as a portal to the underworld, guarded by spirits who decide who enters and who escapes. David is a rational man, but he can't dismiss their tales entirely. He lives with a newfound wariness of the deep, a respect for forces beyond science, often staring at photos of the sinkhole as if it stares back. Let's linger in the eerie unknown of David Shaw's story. How does a man survive over 9 hours in one of the deepest underwater caves, battling toxic gas, crushing pressure, and when every statistic screams fatality? His rebreather malfunction should have killed him within minutes, yet he endured hours. Then there's the intervention, that jolt of clarity, the commanding presence urging him to climb, the shadows and whispers that seemed to both threaten and guide. Was it hallucination from narcosis? A survival instinct amplified by desperation? Or something darker, a denizen of the deep granting mercy? David himself has said, "I wasn't alone down there. Something saw me, judged me, and let me go. I'll never know what it was." His story chills us here at The Mortals, because it's not just about escaping death. No, it's about brushing against something ancient, unseen, in a place where light and life dare not linger. David's survival transformed him, turning a fearless diver into a man who treads lightly near the abyss, carrying the weight of an encounter he can't name. It forces us to wonder, are there realms beneath us, entities in the dark that decide our fate when we trespass? Bushman's Hole keeps its secrets, but David Shaw walked away with a glimpse of its truth, a truth too eerie to fully grasp. David Shaw's story leaves us trembling in the dark, and maybe that's its power. Sometimes the unexplainable isn't a mystery to solve, but a shiver to feel, a reminder that life hangs by threads we can't see, in places we don't belong. If you've ever experienced something unexplainable, a near-death terror, an eerie intervention, a loss that haunts you, I want to hear from you. Join the Mortals community, a space for deeper conversations, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and a chance to connect with others who feel the chill of these stories just like you. Members get early access to episodes, bonus content, and a direct line to share your own experiences. Check out the link in the description or visit nathanmorrismusic.com to join. Your story might be the one we tell next. Thanks for listening to The Mortals, where the walls come down, the mysteries stay unsolved, and sometimes these answers only lead to darker questions. I like it that way. Until next time. Take care of yourselves. You're loved far more than you could ever know, even in the shadows.